Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. I'm never taking free stuff off Craigslist again without seeing it first. A while back, I found a listing for a free dollhouse being given away. The photos in the ad showed a classic wooden dollhouse, 2 stories tall with a peaked roof. It looked a little old-fashioned with its vintage wallpaper and trim, but overall it seemed to be in decent shape and well-made. I immediately thought it would make the perfect birthday gift for my niece. She had just turned 5 and loved playing house with her Barbies for hours. I figured I could fix up and repaint this dollhouse to surprise her at her party next month. So I messaged the seller that evening to say I'd take it, and we arranged a time for me to come pay it out the next day. When I pulled up at the address, I saw the dollhouse sitting outside the garage waiting, looking exactly as pictured in the ad. It seemed totally normal and undamaged. I easily loaded the dollhouse into my car, thanked the sellers, and headed home excited to see my niece's reaction when she opened it at her party. As soon as I got home, I decided to unlatch it and inspect the insides first, just to see what improvements it might need. As soon as I swung open the little dollhouse doors, I immediately got an uneasy vibe. I can't explain it, but the whole atmosphere just felt off and kind of sinister. The miniature furniture was drab and worn, the floral wallpaper was faded and peeling. But what really gave me the creeps were the dolls. There were several small plastic dolls placed in the various rooms like they were a real family, but their eyes had all been poked out. Just empty black holes remained where cute eyes should have been. The black pits made it look like the dolls were eerily staring right through you. I picked one up and shivered as I examined the round punctures where its eyes had once been. The holes were perfectly neat, as if someone had methodically gouged out the eyes with a tool. What kind of demented person would disfigure dolls in this creepy way? As soon as I saw those eyeless dolls, I knew this dollhouse had some seriously bad mojo. No way could I give it to my sweet niece now. I would have to find her another present because this one was getting tossed. There were several little dolls throughout the house, but their eyes had been poked out. Just black, empty holes remained where their eyes should have been. The holes made it look like they were staring right through you. It gave me the shivers to pick one up and look at the vacant face. What kind of kid mutilated dolls like that? I searched online and realized an eerie tradition of taking the eyes out of dolls to free their spirits or drive away bad energy. So these dolls had likely been used in some kind of ritual. No thanks. That's when I noticed strange symbols roughly carved into the wooden walls of each room. They looked occult or pagan to me. Pentagrams, runes, weird circles. Definitely supernatural and creepy. I started to get seriously bad juju from this dollhouse. The cold, empty stares of the eyeless dolls, dark symbols gouged everywhere. This thing gave me the total heebie-jeebies. It just felt cursed or haunted somehow. I know that probably sounds crazy to think an old dollhouse could be possessed, but I swear I felt an evil presence like some dark history attached to it. Call me superstitious, but better safe than sorry when it comes to cursed objects. So as much as I hated to give up the free find, I decided then and there that this dollhouse had to go. No way was I keeping a creepy ritual dollhouse with defaced dolls in my home, and no way was I giving it to my sweet young niece. I packed the whole thing back in my car that same day. I drove it to the landfill and made sure to toss it in one of the big commercial dumpsters so it would get buried under mountains of trash. I just wanted it gone far away from me or any other home. You better believe I saged myself thoroughly when I got home, just to cleanse any residual bad energy. And I took a long hot shower to wash off any occult cooties from handling the thing. Felt much better afterward. I did feel silly getting so freaked out over what was probably just an old dollhouse with damaged dolls, but I was taking 0 chances of cursed objects in my possession. My sister said I was ridiculous when I told her why I ditched it, but hey, better to overreact when my gut says something is seriously bad news. Who knows what kind of darkness could follow an occult ritual prop into a home? No thanks. Instead, I bought my niece a nice new sparkly dollhouse and regular dolls for her birthday. Seeing her face light up warmed my heart way more than some free haunted hand-me-down ever could. So, while it hurt a little to toss out a free find from Craigslist, I know I made the right call. The vibe was just too eerie and sinister to ignore. Sometimes you gotta follow your instincts. I love finding bargains to fix up and reuse. But from now on, I will happily pay full price for children's items not ritually defaced. You win some, you lose some. At least I didn't take any evil spirits home from Craigslist that day. Lesson learned, inspect thoroughly before hauling home free creepy stuff. Let me tell you, I learned the hard way never to find roommates on Craigslist. When I first moved to the city, I was desperate to find a cheap living situation. I had just started a new job and didn't know anyone in town. One day I came across a Craigslist ad from a guy named Mike offering a room for rent in his house for only $400 a month, including utilities. That was dirt cheap for the area, so I jumped at it. I should have realized it was too good to be true, but I naively ignored the red flags, like the worn-down condition of the house. When I met Mike, he seemed a little odd and awkward, but harmless. Against my better judgment, I agreed to move in the following week. At first, everything seemed normal. Mike was quiet and kept to himself, often shut in his bedroom. I was just glad he wasn't disruptive. The cheap rent let me save up some money quickly. But after a couple weeks, I started noticing strange things happening around the house. I would sometimes hear Mike lingering silently right outside my bedroom door for several minutes at a time. I would suddenly get the creepy sensation of being watched, only to open my door and find him hurriedly walking away. Other times, I could see the blinds in my window rustling as I left for work, and I just knew Mike was standing there watching me from behind them. It gave me chills imagining him tracking my every move. One afternoon when I came home early from work, I walked into the kitchen and caught Mike red-handed going through my bedroom dresser drawers. When I demanded to know what he was doing, he instantly got flustered. He came up with some ridiculous excuse about checking all the rooms for AC leaks. But I knew he was clearly lying. I could tell he had been invading my privacy and snooping through my personal belongings. I was furious, but he vehemently denied doing anything inappropriate. He kept trying to convince me I must be imagining things. He seemed so oddly desperate for me to believe him. It almost made me doubt myself. But I knew in my gut something was very wrong. Over the next few days, I became increasingly paranoid and anxious about Mike's disturbing behavior. I started feeling like a prisoner trapped in my own bedroom, afraid to leave the room knowing he was monitoring my every move from the shadows. I began dreading having to open my door, never knowing if Mike would be standing there staring at me creepily or trying to make uncomfortable small talk. He seemed obsessed with keeping tabs on everything I did. At random times of the day and night, Mike would suddenly show up and try to make forced, awkward small talk with me. He would ask invasive questions about my job, friends, and family life, clearly fishing for personal information. I would give vague or misleading answers, not wanting him to have any real knowledge about my life to use against me. But he was very persistent and would rapid-fire questions at me, trying to trip me up or catch me in a lie. The interrogations always left me feeling deeply unsettled. I started planning my day to avoid running into Mike as much as possible. I would listen at my bedroom door for any sign of him before darting to the kitchen or bathroom. I made sure to lock my door at night, but I slept poorly, imagining him lurking right outside in the dark hallway for hours. I was on edge nonstop being trapped with this bizarre stalker. When I directly confronted Mike about his disturbing obsessive behavior, he would get angry and defensive. He would insist I was being ridiculous and paranoid, gaslighting me into doubting my own sanity. But my every instinct was screaming that Mike was severely unhinged and dangerous behind his shy, nice guy facade. I knew in my bones that I had to get away from this escalating, unstable situation immediately, by any means necessary. This situation was bad news. The last straw came when I awoke one night to a dark silhouette standing over my bed, breathing heavily. When I screamed and turned on the light, I glimpsed Mike ducking out of view. That did it. I wasn't spending another night under the same roof as this psychopathic creep, who knew what he was capable of. I packed my essentials right then as Mike banged on my door, begging me not to leave. At dawn, I hurriedly threw everything else into my car while Mike was asleep. But just as I went to pull out of the driveway, Mike came screeching up in his car to block me, screaming that I couldn't leave. When he rushed toward me, I instinctively floored it to get away. I saw him growing smaller in my rearview mirror until he disappeared from sight. I finally felt safe again. I bounced between motels and friends' couches for 2 weeks until I got an apartment. The whole ordeal left me paranoid, though, constantly glancing over my shoulder wherever I went. thinking Mike would reappear. In retrospect, I should have been way more selective choosing a roommate, but I let my financial situation cloud my judgment. Mike seemed harmless at first, but quickly revealed his true obsessive stalker colors. Now I always vet potential roommates thoroughly first, and warn all my friends to be really careful using Craigslist to find housemates. One freaky stalker situation was more than enough for me. At least I escaped relatively unharmed and learned to listen to my gut in the future. Still, I don't think I'll ever forget that skin-crawling feeling of being watched and controlled by an unhinged stranger under the same roof. Definitely choosing safety over savings from now on when it comes to roommates. Man, I can't believe how crazy last Friday turned out. I was just trying to buy a used bike on Craigslist, but the whole thing went south real quick. I had seen this ad for a pretty sweet road bike, hardly used, for only $200. The pictures looked amazing, so I decided to go check it out. The seller said to meet at this sketchy industrial area, which should have been my first red flag. But hey, $200 for a bike like that. I wasn't gonna pass it up just cause the meetup spot was a little shitty. So I get to this giant abandoned warehouse and text the guy I'm here. A few minutes go by, and this dude comes walking out looking all nervous, peering around constantly. He's wearing a hoodie with a hood pulled up and baggy jeans. Not exactly an outfit that screams trustworthy. I'm immediately getting weird vibes from him, but try to ignore them. Maybe he's just anxious cause he's alone meeting some random stranger to sell his bike. Still, my instincts are telling me something feels off. He shows me the bike, and it looks just like the photos, maybe even nicer. The frame gleams in the sunlight, and the gears shift smoothly when I give them a test click. I take it for a little spin around the cracked concrete parking lot, weaving between abandoned semi-trucks and piles of old wooden pallets. The bike rides like an absolute dream, light as air, but super responsive with each turn of the pedals. I decide then and there that I'm absolutely taking this bike home with me. That's when things go south really fast. As I'm pulling out the cash from my wallet, the guy suddenly demands I hand over my entire wallet too. I'm stunned, muttering something about how I just wanted to buy the nice bike from him. But he gets this crazy intense look in his bloodshot eyes and pulls a freaking gun out from inside his baggy jacket. My heart leaps into my throat at the sight of the dark metal weapon now pointed directly at me. My adrenaline starts pumping as he waves the gun aggressively, demanding a wallet, my phone, anything of value I have on me. I know I have to act fast if I want to get out of this alive. So, in one smooth move, I leap onto the bike seat and start pedaling away as hard as I can. The tires screech on the pavement as I build up speed. The guy is screaming after me, and I actually hear a gunshot ring out, echoing off the warehouse walls. Holy crap, he's shooting at me. I pedal for my life, weeding around rusty old shipping containers and mounds of trash. I duck under a low pipe and squeeze through a man-sized hole in the chain-link fence surrounding the warehouse property. I can hear the guy running after me on foot, but this bike is fast. I'm pumping the pedals with everything I've got, my heart pounding out of my chest. I risk a glance back and see he's fading into the distance. I keep pedaling all out, worried he might have a car nearby to chase me in. I take a winding route through industrial back streets, trying to put as much distance between us as possible. After about 15 minutes of hardcore riding, I finally feel safe enough to slow down a bit. I pull off the main streets into a quiet suburban neighborhood to catch my breath and get my bearings after the chase. The adrenaline is really starting to wear off now, and I realize just how incredibly lucky I am to have made it out of there. That psychotic guy could have easily shot me right there in that warehouse parking lot over a stupid stolen bike, and for all I know, the bike I just risked my life for probably is stolen anyway. As I pedal slowly along the tree-lined suburban streets, it really sinks in how close I came to death back there. A wave of nausea and dizziness hits me as the adrenaline crash sets in. I have to pull over and put my feet down, taking deep breaths to try and calm my racing heart. I decide right then that I need to report this to the police before that violent lunatic tries to rob or kill someone else responding to his fake ad. As I sit there regaining my composure, I spot a police cruiser rolling by on patrol. I wave the cop down and try to explain what happened, but I'm still so shaken up my words come out jumbled between gasps for air. The officer grabs his notepad and tells me to take it slow. He sees how completely terrified I still am, so he takes me very seriously right away. I take a few deep breaths and explain the whole terrifying ordeal from the beginning. How I arrived at the abandoned warehouse, the sketchy seller pulling a gun on me, my split-second decision to escape on the bike. All the details I can remember come spilling out. The officer listens grimly, taking notes the entire time. When I finish, he tells me they'd gotten a handful of reports about shady Craigslist deals at that same warehouse location. Apparently, it's being used as a known meetup spot for criminals specifically looking to rob unsuspecting people responding to fake sale ads they posted online. My stomach drops realizing I could have been just another victim if I hadn't listened to my bad vibes. The officer says I did exactly the right thing by getting away from there as fast as I could. He assures me they'll canvass the whole area to try and find the robber. I'm just so beyond relieved I managed to escape intact. The officer takes down all the details and says they'll canvass the area for the creep. He also runs the bike's serial number, which luckily comes back clean. So at least now I've got this amazing new bike out of the whole insane ordeal. After giving the cop my statement, he gives me a ride back to my car near the warehouse. We pass by the spot where it all went down, and I feel a chill thinking how close of a call that was. So yeah, talk about a wild Friday. So listen to this, I really regret selling my Nintendo Switch on Craigslist. Don't get me wrong, I needed the cash since I just lost my job, but the whole experience was super sketchy and now I can't stop thinking about it. It started when I posted the ad last week. I priced my Switch at $200 since it was in good condition with a few games included. Within an hour I had a bunch of people messaging me asking if it was still available. Most of them seemed normal enough, just parents looking to buy their kids a Switch for cheap. But then I got this message from a user named LonelyGuy456 that right away seemed off. His email was very short, just saying, "I want to buy your Switch, please contact me immediately." No mention of the price or anything. I almost didn't respond but figured what's the harm in at least seeing what he had to say. We exchanged a few messages and he asked very basic questions about the condition and what games were included. He didn't try to negotiate on the price at all, which I thought was weird. After just a couple back and forth emails, he said he wanted to buy it and could pick it up that same night. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him in the parking lot of a nearby grocery store. I know I should have suggested somewhere more public, but it was already late and I just wanted to get it over with. When I pulled into the mostly empty lot around 8 p.m., I immediately knew which car was his. An old, beat-up sedan with the dome light on. My stomach sank, but I figured I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. He got out of the car as I approached, and he just gave me the creeps from the start. Unkempt hair, stained hoodie, weird twitchy mannerisms. He looked to be in his 40s but lived like a college frat guy. Without even looking at the Switch, he took the cash out of his wallet and basically threw it at me, grabbing the box out of my hands. The whole transaction took less than a minute. I barely had time to count the money before he had already gotten back in his car and drove off. The brief interaction left me feeling really unsettled. There was just something not right about that guy, but I tried to push it out of my mind, and at least I had the $200 for bills. It wasn't until the next day that things got really freaky. I was home alone when I heard something slide through my mail slot around noon. Out with the door and was confused to find a plain white envelope sitting there, no stamps or address on it. Inside was a handwritten note on notebook paper that said, "My dearest love, I cannot stop thinking about you." What the hell? This had to be from that weird Craigslist guy. How did he figure out my address? And why was he writing me love notes? As the day went on, more letters appeared in my mailbox, each more strange than the last. The moment I saw your beautiful face, I knew you were my destiny. Our souls are one, we must unite as lovers. I will have you as my own. Do not resist our love. By the fifth letter, I was completely panicking. This man was clearly unstable, and now he knew where I lived. I tried calling the police to report the stalking and disturbing letters, but they basically laughed it off, saying I couldn't prove the letters actually came from him. All they offered to do was drive by my street a few extra times that night to keep an eye out. I felt so frustrated and scared. The police weren't taking me seriously at all. I hardly slept that night, worried this creep might try to break into my house or was lurking outside watching me. I kept checking out the window and listening for any strange noises. At every creak of the house settling, I jumped up to inspect. When morning came after my mostly sleepless night, I hesitantly checked the mail, hoping the letters had stopped. But no, there waiting for me was another plain white envelope. My hands shook as I opened it up and read the chilling message inside. This letter was far more threatening and ominous than the rest. You cannot hide from our passion. I will come for you, my love. We will be together one way or another. That was the last letter I received from this deranged stalker. It's been over a week now since that final disturbing message, and there have been no other signs of him. I want to believe he lost interest and moved on, but I still feel unsafe in my own home. I've started keeping all the lights on at night and double-checking the locks on doors and windows repeatedly. I barely sleep listening for any odd sounds that could be him trying to break in. I thought about getting a security system installed, but that costs money I don't have at the moment. I've also considered moving out until this guy is caught, but moving isn't really an option financially until I find a new job. I feel stuck in this house that I no longer feel safe in. I'm constantly paranoid this creepy stalker could show up again at any moment. These bizarre letters have left me feeling violated and tense in my own home. I really regret ever selling my Switch to this deeply unhinged person. Selling my old Switch was so not worth all this trouble. I should have just tried trading it in at GameStop or something. That lonely guy 456 gave me the serious creeps, and now I can't get this stalker situation out of my head. The police were no help at all, so now I'm just stuck worrying about when or if this weirdo will show up again. I'll definitely be more careful selling stuff online from now on. And I'll never use Craigslist again, that's for sure. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.